I'm finding more and more often, whenever I'm out with a large group of people, whenever we talk about video games, we always end up discussing Nintendo. Mario, Metroid, Pokemon, the list goes on and on. Nintendo fans have been bombarded with great games from all these different franchises, all generation long, and so we're always talking about games we've played and things we've seen and games we want to play. It's an incredibly fun time, right? It's such a far cry from 10, 20 years ago when people would scream at you for bringing up Nintendo. Oh, nobody cares about that. That isn't a thing that happens anymore, right? In my experience, maybe it's like an age-related thing. Maybe you only get bullied for liking Nintendo when you're a kid, but the way it looks now is that the culture has shifted quite a lot in the pro Nintendo direction. I've talked about this a lot, right? But what's really interesting is seeing the reaction to when some of these people try and speak out against Nintendo, try and do something ridiculous and push some nonsense onto gamers, right? It's kind of ridiculous whenever you see this happen in real time. What happened the other day, me, group of people just sitting around a table, just talking about Nintendo, talking about Fire Emblem, talking about Mario, and eventually The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, all of us have played this game, all of us loved it, all of us are raving about it. It's just that good of a game. It's just that iconic. Almost 2 years later, and it's still a hotly discussed topic in our circle. Right. This is something I've brought up a lot in the past. It's something I talked about before, but this is what a true game of the generation looks like. A game that endures years after the fact, right? But what was really odd about this situation, is looking over to the other side of us, there was this butterball of a human being, some 200 pound, a purple haired, just butterball. Okay, just the type, right? This individual was sitting by herself, listening in on us, right? Talking about Zelda, having a great time, and Baldur's Gate 3 was game of the year! Out of nowhere, just threw herself into our conversation, trying to tell us that Baldur's Gate 3 won all these awards. It did all this. It was the most popular game ever. And all of these guys that I'm with, right? We're all just a lot of us have played Baldur's. I haven't, right? But a lot of them have, and a lot of them are just Baldur's Gate 3 is not as good as The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And they're laying out all the reasons why. The better open world, the better mechanics, the better quest system, the combat, the real-time nature of it, the building and the story. All of this demonstrably proven to be better than Baldur's Gate 3. Several people are telling her this, politely, by the way. It's not like what I do on the channel. This is another thing I really need to talk about more is that, no, I don't spurg out about how Nintendo is superior in public like I do on the channel. But yeah, we're all being really nice to her and being sorry, but we like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom more. And she's just no, Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Gate. And she's talking about all this stuff she's done in the game, all the bears she's fucked, she got with the vampire or something. I don't know. Okay. I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate 3. But it was just it was this big wake up call to what the average Baldur's Gate fan is like in real life. This is how these people actually behave and how they treat other people. Other gamers who like other video games. They interrupt their conversations to spurg out about how Baldur's Gate 3 is better. And honestly, it seeing this play out in real life, it's really not that different from what you see in the comment section in my videos. Whenever I talk about how Baldur's Gate 3 is a failure and is forgotten and how the only people who care about it are weirdos, like it's the same kind of argument. Like, well, Baldur's Gate won Game of the Year. Yeah, nobody cares. Okay, like nobody cares about the Game Awards. And I do think this is a really good indication of just where the culture is going, right? This is the kind of person who uses the Game Awards to attack other players, to downplay like other games, to just be a complete and total retard in public. Like it's just like what'd you think was gonna happen? Like going up against Harmon Smith in public, with friends. Like, what did she think was gonna happen? Like, it was just, I really couldn't believe it, right? That these people actually exist and actually do this to people. It's just, couldn't believe it, right? Like it's getting worse, honestly. Like it feels way different than it did like 10 years ago for sure. Like 10 years ago it felt like, it was like a PlayStation cocksucking thing, like The Last of Us is the greatest game ever, but it's kind of like shifted a little bit. Like it kind of feels more as if the games that people put on a pedestal are like games that push woke ideology. Stuff like Celeste, stuff like Undertale, stuff like Baldur's Gate 3, right? Like stuff like that. It's just a shift I noticed. It's not really console or developer related. It's entirely based on like how the woke community sees your game and whether or not they can use it for their own purposes, right? Again, like we've seen this in the Nintendo community too, right? Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Like, how many times have we seen these people like pretend Vivian is transgender, right? When anybody who plays the game knows that it's a guy. Again, we've known this for years, right? Like the giant cope that they had, trying to make this canon. Like it was it's definitely kind of interesting to kind of see like the culture shift, and we are seeing it, right? Like, and I do think the behavior of these people is putting off a lot of people to their ideology, right? Like nobody's going to see this butterball screaming at us about Baldur's Gate 3 and think that that person has any idea what she's talking about, any credibility at all. She's going up against a bunch of normal looking dudes having like a nice time and spurging out about like all the gay vampire sex she's had. Like it's just like okay, bro, like it's just unbelievable. But yeah, like I've that's my little Baldur's Gate 3 fan story. Like that's my first interaction with a Baldur's Gate fan ever. I imagine this is what they're like, going by how they act online and how they're gonna react to this video. But yeah, like I can't imagine this is an isolated incident. Like, does anyone else has anyone else had these kind of interactions? Like, let me know in the comments because I would really, really like to know.